products of the violence that his dollars initiated against these sentient, intelligent individuals. I know this is a tough subject. I know it's very personal. There's a lot of emotion in history, and just, what you eat is very personal. And we're all on a journey. Just 3 years ago, even at Anarchapulco, I would have eaten meat. By that time, I had come to the point that I was eating only fish and vegetables, of course, plant products. But we're on a journey. So what we're doing, though, does require us, when we're eating the animal products, requires us to ignore our thoughts, to suppress our feelings, and to really just put a squelch on our values of compassion and kindness, which are natural to us. So, aggression, let's just say that it's initiating or threatening the use of any or all forcible interference with an individual or an individual's property. Go back to John Locke, one of the first who talked about this concept, and that being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his health, liberty, life, or possessions. So I submit to you that eating animals does indeed violate the non-aggression principle, and I'm going to talk about why that is, why I think that's true, and how it happened, and why we've come to this point in our history. So what makes a human being human? Anybody?
Consciousness.
Consciousness? Sentience. Self-determination. Okay, very good. Freedom of choice. Absolutely.
The power of creation.
The power of creation. Okay. So any of those concepts that would not apply to a non-human animal, we're all animals. It's just whether we're human animals or non-human animals. I submit that we're going through a global holocaust like has never happened before. Every single year, 60 billion land animals and 90 billion marine animals are killed, slaughtered. This is 150 billion individuals. Individuals that were born from a mom and a dad. They have eyes, they have a brain, they have a heart. They care about themselves, they care about their own lives. They're intelligent, they're sentient, they're self-aware. And what's amazing is we truly do have a choice. We do not have to do this. I know in this room alone, there are several healthy vegans who have been vegan for many years. Healthy vegans, or vegans, stand up. Some sitting, some sitting. Okay, very good, very good. So now you know who you can ask questions to. But you're all compassionate people. I know you are. You all value kindness. You all value the non-aggression principle. You know, once upon a time, before I went to Georgia Tech and studied engineering, before I got my MBA from Harvard, I was a little girl, and I loved animals. And my parents gave me a beautiful little poodle for my 5th birthday, and she was my best friend. I named her Bridget Lulu. I love that dog. And she was with me for 13 years until she died of cancer. But you know, at one time we were all children, and we loved animals. And we couldn't imagine harming an animal. And if we saw someone harming an animal, we would scream and cry and say, stop, stop. We loved to watch animals play. We hate it when we see violence against animals. So, can all of you think of a Bridget Lulu in your life? Who was the first animal that you loved? And how did when you first learned that you're eating animals, the pigs that you saw, and the cows that you saw, and the chickens, and you learned that you're eating animals? I mean, I don't remember being conscious of that, actually, but many of you might, and I imagine it was a rather traumatic moment. And you say to her, wow, that's fantastic, what's the recipe? And she says, well, it's all in the meat. You start with 3 pounds of well-seasoned golden retriever. How do you feel now? Not too good, eh? Most of us would not feel too good. Most of us have probably not eaten dogs. But it's a matter of perception. Because in many parts of the world, they do eat dogs on a regular basis. In fact, what you eat is largely a part of your culture, your taste, habit, and convenience. Now, in this presentation, I'm going to show a few images that might disturb you. This is reality. This is Yulin Dog Festival in China, where in a single week, 10,000 dogs are killed. And they're treated the way we treat regular farm animals here, because for them, they are farm animals. In fact, it's estimated that about 25 million dogs are eaten in Asia in a single year. It's a matter of culture. This is a little little dog that was saved from the Yulin Dog Festival. A little dog that you or I might have at home and love and sleep in our beds with us and lick our faces and be our best friend. It's a matter of culture, taste, habit, and convenience. Now, I want you to imagine that you've gone into a restaurant, like many of us have. And in the front, they've got the tank full of lobsters, and you get to go up and pick out your own lobster. Well, guess what you get to pick out in Korea? You get to go to the back of the restaurant and pick out the puppy that you want them to take into another room and dash to them. Because it's assumed that, it's believed that when the dogs are beaten to death, that it releases adrenaline, it releases cortisol, which makes you stronger when you eat it. I don't know about you, I don't want adrenaline and cortisol in my body, and I certainly don't want to eat a dead puppy. Think about the culture. In India, a man was killed by a mob because it was just assumed, it was rumored that he had eaten beef. We're living in a crazy time. Culture, taste, habit, and convenience. This video will make you smile about dogs. Let's play it real quickly here. I think this is an amazing example of...
Now, Gina, to be fair,
Okay.
we didn't get a chance to test your audio yet.
Okay. Does not appear to be working.
Well, hang on. Can you play it again?
Hit by a car trying to cross the road. There he is trying to cross the road, and he gets hit, and is now just lying in the middle of this busy highway, and a second dog spots him and tries to get over to him. Here's the first dog again being hit. He's lying there in the middle of the road, busy time of the highway, and here comes the second dog, who grabs him not with his teeth, but actually gets him with his paws around his neck and drags him in the middle of all this traffic off the road to safety, little by little, inch by inch. Finally, some workers spot the dogs and come over and help them. And by the way, the injured dog lived.
Is that amazing? And these were not dogs that lived in homes. These were street dogs. This is South America. I see this and I'm totally amazed. And then I'm even more amazed to think that on the intelligence scale, where scientists have studied this sort of things, pigs are considered more intelligent than dogs. So they have awareness, they have logic, reasoning. It's really quite amazing. You know, in our movement, we talk a lot about moral agency. So what is moral agency? An individual's ability to make moral judgments based on some notion of right and wrong, and to be held accountable for these actions. Now, we don't hold animals accountable, but do they have moral judgments? Well, except for what we call obligate Yes, within the animal kingdom there are obligate carnivores, animals that will die if they do not eat another animal. So lions, tigers, and bears are carnivores. They are required to eat other animals, and yes, they do harm other animals. But otherwise, we don't see a lot of harm from one animal to another, just in the normal course of business. Again, what's the big difference between your dog and a pig? How could I pet Bridget with one hand and eat a pork chop with the other? This was just a few years ago, and I was a bit heavier than I am now. Part of my journey. I had decided at that point in my life, I had come through a divorce. My son had died from suicide. It was a difficult time. I had consoled myself with food and alcohol, and had really blossomed. And I said, enough is enough. I have to make a change. And so I accidentally stumbled into veganism through going through a juice cleanse. Now in a juice cleanse, you eat and drink nothing but fresh fruits and juices for, I did 30 days, I lost 20 pounds. And after I lost 20 pounds, well, I started eating normal again. What I thought was normal, healthy, salmon, chicken, those sorts of things. And I started gaining weight again. And I didn't feel as good. And so I thought, well, if I felt so great eating just fruits and vegetables, why don't I just eat fruits and vegetables all the time? Can I do that? I had always been told it was unhealthy. I thought it was not a good thing to do. But you can see now, 50 pounds later, this was taken last week in our home in Orlando. Never felt better. For the first time in my adult life, I don't have a weight problem. I'm still not thin, but I'm certainly healthy. And I can eat whatever I want within my huge categories of food. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's really just amazing. I used to constantly be worried about, well, can I eat this? Can I eat that? Can I eat this? Can I eat that? I can eat just tons of food now. And it was at Anarchapulco 3 years ago that the final evolution for me happened. I was out walking along the beach, and I came across the fishermen that were, the crowd was gathered around, they had been out fishing, and the people were buying their fish. And as I walked along, I just looked over and I saw a little fish. And this little fish was flailing, and the guy was holding it down and he was scaling it. And it was clearly in pain. And I thought, why don't you just cut off the head? I mean, why don't you kill this fish instead of letting it suffer like it is? And I just, became so clear to me that we don't see animals as individuals. We see them as innate objects. We see them as furniture. They're just like a chair or a table. And that was it for me. That was it for me. And I tried to eat fish once more after that, and I couldn't do it. So I changed the way I looked at things. I didn't change the things I saw. I changed the way I saw them. I was at the restaurant last night, Carnivore. We had to go there for time and other reasons. They had a rotisserie in the back, and I looked at the chickens on the rotisserie. And I feel like the guy in that movie Sixth Sense, where he says, "I see dead people." I don't call animals people, but I do see dead individuals, and it's disturbing. I grew up as a meat eater. My dad, he ate a lot of meat, and we, family celebrations. Again, I know this is a very intimate, personal thing, but how is it that in our brains we can say we love animals and yet eat animals? And so I suggest to you that there's an invisible ideology that conditions us to eat certain animals. We don't eat all animals, we just eat certain animals, and it's called carnism. Now, carnism is this invisible ideology that conditions us to eat certain animals. It was codified by a woman named Melanie Joy. She has written a fabulous book called Why We Love Dogs eat pigs and wear cows. And there's a great TEDx talk on Melanie Joy. This is such a dominant ideology that we don't even realize that it exists. It's just so pervasive to our culture. Much like the Matrix, I know Nathan opened the session yesterday with the Matrix voicing, and that's very much what we're living in. We don't see it because we're in it. But eating animals is, by nature, very violent. So carnism, how does it work? It's not consistent with our values. It's not consistent with our values of compassion, justice, and authenticity. So we put up these defense mechanisms so that we aren't in touch with this. It pervades our thoughts, our feelings. We put ourselves into a state of denial. This denial is helpful because of the invisibility of what's happening. It's an invisible ideology and these are invisible victims. In the United States alone, 1.2 billion animals are slaughtered every week. Do you see them? Where are they? You don't see them because they're in these windowless sheds out in the middle of nowhere that you don't even know that they're there. It's a big country, and there's a lot of room to put these things. So carnism deals with justification. There's the three ends. What are those three ends? Normal, that's natural, and necessary. Normal, natural, and necessary. Normal, natural, and necessary to take the lives of sentient beings. There's a great video that I'm not going to show, but I encourage you, if you want to look more into this, it's called Farm to Fridge. And there are some really graphic, horrific images because it's a horrific life of a farmed animal, including the fish, and including the fish that are caught out in the seas, and really tortured deaths. But I do want to say, even though this one, there's some horrible images, this is standard industry practice, what happens in these places, and including, it's humane in the bio facilities. So there's another famous video called The Best Speech Ever by Gary Ross. And he talks, is definitely a vegan maker. That was the video that changed my life and really put me into the purely vegan category. But by definition, slavery and slaughter are radically cruel and can never be humane. People say, oh, well, they were raised humanely. Well, even if they were raised humanely, they didn't want to die. You know, I often think about if Auschwitz, if the people that went there, that they were given massages and pedicures every day and, allowed to go out and play cricket and have a lot of fun, but still at a certain time, the new crew's coming in, they got to make room. Let's go to the special showers today. That wouldn't be right. It's not right. They didn't want their lives to end. So this pain that we feel from thinking about these things that I've brought up, the pain can be helpful. The pain can be therapeutic. This carnism exists because of these myths. Where else have we heard these three myths? Normal, necessary, and natural. Slavery, male dominance, heterosexual supremacy. What's normal? Oops. The reason we don't see this is very similar to what many of the other speakers have talked about. Because the institutions around us have said this is okay. Government says it's okay. The law says it's okay. The bankers, the media, everybody says it's okay. In fact, there's a law called ag-gag. It is illegal for people to do videos of what goes on inside these slaughterhouses. But fortunately, these are happening and they're trickling out to the internet and they're very helpful. But in particular, this convergence between government and big business, big farm, big agriculture, and big pharma, the drug companies, right? How is this happening? They put money in the pockets of the government officials and say, make sure that they recommend that people drink lots of dairy and that protein's really good for you. You got to do protein. So think about the commercials that we see. You know, oh, go have a burger, have a burger with cheese and burger, burger and cheese. Oh, gotta have some yogurt, yogurt's good for you, milk's good for you, right? Oh, but you've got high blood pressure? Oh, well maybe you need some of this Lipitor or whatever those drugs are to help your blood pressure. You need low on energy, you need some Red Bull, you can't sleep at night, you need some Somanex. Let's talk just a little bit about milk. How normal is it, how natural is it to drink milk? There's no other species that drinks another species' milk. There's no other species that drinks milk after they're weaned. And let me just tell you guys, milk is very directly linked to cancer. Why do we have so much cancer in our country? Well, milk, we drink a lot of milk, and milk is directly linked to cancer. Necessary. Here we go. Diet. Now, this is in the UK. You won't see an article like this in the US, in major media. But diet high in meat, eggs, and dairy could be as harmful to health as smoking. And I do believe that in my lifetime, because I've lived a long time because I'm healthy, because I'm vegan, that I will see a time that we look back and say, just like we look at smoking, just like we look at slavery, we're going to say, what were we thinking? The 15 leading causes of U.S. deaths are all directly related to lifestyle. Less than 10% of this is genetics. It's not just because your mother got breast cancer that you're likely to get breast cancer. It's because you eat much the way your mother ate. Right? So heart disease, lung disease, all of these disorders, chronic, debilitating, deadly conditions. Personally, I lost a grandfather to heart disease, my father to blood cancer, a dear aunt to breast cancer, my son to suicidal depression, and a grandmother to Parkinson's disease. If I had only known then what I know now, what changes could I have helped them make and had a better, longer, healthier life? Much of this is chronicled into a book that I now call my Bible, the How Not to Die book, where he lists these 15 diseases, extensively researched, and their links to what people are eating, and then he goes through what he calls the daily dozen of the foods that will help you live healthier and happier. So to prevent, treat, or reverse every single one of these diseases, eat a plant-based diet. Okay, plant-based diet, you say, well, will I be strong enough? Will I have enough vigor to do the things I want to do? Look at this guy named Rich Roll. He's an ultra athlete, a top finisher in the Ultraman, where you swim 6.2 miles, bike 261 miles, and 152 miles in 3 days. This is 3 days. He did 5 Ironman triathlons in less than a week. All of this after he became vegan. Look at Serena and Venus Williams. They're vegan. They actually call themselves chicken because on occasion they'll have a chicken breast or something like that when they're celebrating. But mostly and all throughout their training seasons, they are vegan. They are totally plant-based. So the proverbial for our movement is, who will build the roads? And for vegans, it's where do you get your protein? There's so many similarities between statism and carnism. It's quite amazing. But where do horses get their protein? They look pretty muscular to me. Pretty strong. Top 10 sources of vegan veggie protein. You can see their spinach is 49% protein. Mushrooms are 38% protein. Beef is only 25% protein and chicken 23% protein. So there's plenty of protein to go around. And in fact, you're taking the pig and eating the bacon because the pig converts the vegetables to the bacon. I say cut out the little pig. Cut out the little cow. Go straight to the source. These are the 4 groups that we focus on as vegans: fruit, legumes, those are beans and lentils, whole grains, and vegetables. I eat 70 to 90% starches. This whole myth that potatoes will make you fat is not true. Pasta doesn't make me fat. Bread doesn't make me fat. I didn't even believe this just a few months ago. It's really only been the last 3 months that I focused on starches, because then before that I was eating a lot of vegetables and other vegetables and the green leafies and all those kind of things. But I read that starches are what most of civilization has thrived on since the beginning of time. And so I said, well, I'm going to try it. And I've lost weight. I've lost more weight just eating about 80 to 90%. It's amazing. I'll eat 2 sandwiches a day and some baked potatoes, throw in some pasta. It's pretty amazing. And in fact, this is the healthiest diet on the planet. Another doctor that I closely follow is Dr. John McDougall. And pancakes. Pancakes are part of the healthiest diet on the planet. Is that amazing or what? So, before I discovered the juicing, I was doing Atkins. Atkins will help you lose weight. But look at that image says everything. Think about the growth hormones, the antibiotics, the steroids that they're putting into the chickens. And even further than that, they put saline into the animal products before they're packaging them, so they weigh more, so they charge you more money. The whole eat more, eat less, and exercise more isn't true for vegans. You really don't have to exercise very much, and you can eat a whole lot. I eat a lot of food, and that's because the caloric density, this concept of caloric density, you see 400 calories of meat takes up a tiny amount in the stomach, but 400 calories of vegetables takes up, and your stretch sensors in the stomach say, I'm full, I've got a lot to eat now, I'm happy. And in fact, I just met Pablo yesterday. Pablo, wait, raise your hand. Pablo, stand up quickly and tell them what you told me that you had done.
Well, basically,
so around Christmas time, I stumbled upon mostly Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. Sure. And I came at it from not really the animal rights, but the health. And I'm completely convinced that the vegan diet is absolutely the healthiest one. So Christmas time, I weighed about 30 pounds more, and it's mostly starch-based, mostly potatoes, corn, beans. She had a picture of a typical meal. I think we've been to a lot of over the road away a long time, and I used to have to eat fast food and junk. So now I just take this huge amount of food with me every day, and I've lost weight 2 months, about halfway there.
Isn't that fantastic? Give him a hand. And that's the guy sitting next to him who is thinking about becoming more plant-based. But that's a meal. That's a lot of food. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Pablo, for sharing that. Here's the good news. Technology is coming along in a way that is easier to become vegan than ever. This is a vegan burger with bloody meat. How did they get the bloody meat? They use beets. They use beet juice to produce a red blood-like product. It's absolutely amazing. And Terry and I have had some of these. They're quite good. There's vegan cheese, there's fake cheese, there's fake turkey, fake chicken, mock meat. There are apps. You can get an app called Happy Cow, called Veg Express, that help you to, when you're on the road, to choose good restaurants and to choose the vegan options inside the different restaurants. 3D printing. It's not, they're actually producing meat through 3D printing now. It's not available for wide consumption, but it will be. So if you really have to have a good dishing of cholesterol one day, an ethical version of cholesterol, you can do that. By the way, it's only animal products that have cholesterol. Plant-based products do not have cholesterol. What's natural? Go back to that last point, natural. What's natural? People say, we've got these carnivores. We're supposed to be meat eaters. Well, look at carnivores. If you're a carnivore, go out and grab a squirrel, chase a squirrel down and catch it and eat it. Just raw, just like it is. If you've ever seen a carnivore teeth versus a herbivore, pretty different. Including what's going on inside as soon as the food goes into your mouth. Herbivores, humans, have saliva that starts breaking down, specifically made to break down carbohydrates. Our digestive systems are herbivore digestive systems. We have a multi-chambered stomach. We have a huge small intestine, a huge long intestine. Carnivores eat about once a week. They have a huge single-chamber stomach, and they process food very differently. I believe that, you know, the way that we process animal food is why it's going into our bodies and rotting, because it's in our intestines so long, it goes into our bodies and it rots. So, and for those of you who aren't convinced for the ethics and aren't convinced for the health reasons, let me throw in a good kick of environmentalism here. Animal agriculture is the leading cause of species extinction, ocean dead zones, water pollution, and habitat destruction. There's a great movie called Cowspiracy that goes into great detail in this. I'm not going to, but there are extensive reasons to consider going vegan. So what is vegan? Veganism, people go to veganism for health, environment, and ethics. This is the doctrine that man should live without exploiting animals, invented by Donald Watson back in 1951. And he took veganism, he took vegetarianism, and reduced it to what he says was the logical conclusion, which is veganism. So, in addition to a way of eating, vegans also don't wear leather and don't do those things. I tried to buy more time. It didn't work. Let me jump to the end here. Speciesism. You know, we think that as humans we are the superior species, but we aren't. Let's wrap it up here. Let's talk about so we've talked about dogs, we've talked about cows and pigs. I do want to say that fish are also very intelligent beings, and they have complex societal norms. This fish is using a tool. This fish has reason and realized that it can smash a clam into a rock to get the clam out. So there are all these really intelligent species out there. I ask you to just make, these considerations. It's really much easier than you would think to go vegan. Instead of using ground beef for your spaghetti, throw in some black beans. Instead of using eggs for your baking, use a banana. There's so many easy ways to do this. Again, vegans in the room, stand up. I want people to see who you are so you can ask these folks. Excellent. Notice they're all pretty thin and healthy looking. Yeah, very good. All right. I'm around. You can ask me questions. I do have a group on Facebook called the Healthy Happy Hour where we talk about the health aspects. If there's enough interest here, I will start a group for the ethical aspects of eating plant-based, eating vegan. Please see me. I'll be around the entire time. And I certainly love to talk about this. Have no fears if we go to dinner. I'm not going to judge you. And we have a panel, so we'll be talking a lot more. So, Nathan, thank you.
That's on the B stage after the break. If you want to pop into the B stage, there'll be a panel on stage talking about this.
Thank you.
Say I'm feeling good, and I would encourage you to just be curious and look into it. And right now we have a break. And by the way, for lunch, Verde Vegan will be downstairs. That you might be wanting to look into it. Check out the break for you too.
They take big point.
Yeah, and they take big point. That's right. Absolutely.